ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming out on a Friday afternoon. We normally don't have these, but we did have a group from WVU coming down, and this was the best day. We have with us Dr. Liz Vitullo, who is the director of the master's programs for the College of Business at WVU, and she's going to be giving you some information. And then we also have with us Dr. Scott Fleming and Dr. Presha Niedermeyer, who are in the accounting department, and they'll say a few things specifically about the accounting degrees, the Masters of Public Accountancy, as well as the PhD in accountancy.
Okay.
So I'm going to turn that over to them, and please welcome them to our talk today. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for coming out today. I'm sure no one's here just for the extra credit, right? I see some smiles. But we appreciate the audience. My name's Liz Vitullo. I'm the director of the master's programs up at the College of Business and Economics at WVU. And we have some of our esteemed faculty with us. And we're going to talk to you about the different graduate program offerings at the college. It's going to be about a 25-minute overview, and then hopefully there's some questions. I saw that many of you took some of our marketing material. I'm glad you did. Afterwards, if you want to come up and if you have specific questions, we'd welcome that as well. So the College of Business and Economics has a number of graduate program offerings. We have, and we may have a presentation in a second, but I'll keep going from memory here. We have a master's in finance. We have a master's in public accountancy. We have a MBA, Master's in Business Administration. And we have a master's in industrial relations. And what that is essentially is a master's in human resources. In addition to that, we have a PhD and an MS, a master's in economics. And our most recent additions to our program offerings have been a PhD in business administration, where you can do a PhD in accounting, finance, marketing, and management, which is our first one. So we've got the whole gamut, and there's a lot going on at the College of Business and Economics. How many of you are West Virginians, just so I have a sense? So good bit. So you guys are familiar with WVU. About 30,000 students on campus, land-grant institution. The College of Business and Economics has made huge strides in the last couple of years. It's been a great school, but there's some very exciting things going on at the college. From a new dean who comes from, a Fortune 500 company, J&J, he was running operations in Asia Pacific. We have Fortune 500 companies recruiting on campus. We have business plan competitions that one of your colleagues is actively participating in. We have a lot of experiential opportunities. We have executives on campus most weeks to provide speeches and interact with our students. We had John Chambers in the fall. We had John Allison from BB&T. So it just runs the gamut. There's some great opportunities. Concord is a wonderful school, and that's why we're here. We're recruiting from schools where we've historically gotten good students from. And so, this speaks volumes to your faculty and those that came before you. So we want to recruit the best and the brightest to WVU into our program. So what I'm going to do is just do a quick overview of each of the programs. For the accounting program, I'm going to hand it off to Dr. Fleming. Then we're going to talk about admission criteria and scholarship opportunities. Let me start off by saying, one time the bachelor's degree was the currency of what you needed to get a job. Well, the landscape of the workplace is changing very much. And now almost the master's it's not required. We're moving towards that. But for you to step into leadership roles, often they want an advanced degree. And part of our program offerings include the online executive MBA and our evening executive MBA. And these are professionals that are coming back to school 10, 15 years after they've graduated. So think about yourself 10, 15 years after you graduate. You've got a kind of a different life probably. You've got a professional career, hopefully. You've got a family. So think about going back to school for your master's, 10, 15 years down the road. That's a little bit more challenging. So this is a great opportunity to go from your undergraduate degree into a graduate program offering. Let me start off with our MBA program. And for those that picked that up, this is what this is. So our MBA is our Master's of Business Administration. It's a 50 credit hour program. It's an accelerated program. So you can complete the MBA in 14 months. We start programs each summer in June, and you graduate a year later in August. It's a general management degree, so you get advanced coursework in all the functional areas of business. And then as you go through, those functional areas get integrated. The whole purpose of the MBA is to prepare you for managerial and leadership positions. Often our students come straight out from undergrad. So what we try to do with the MBA and with many of our master's programs, we try to build in some experience so that, you know, when you are going for those job interviews, you have a lot to talk about. One of those, we have a mandatory international experience. So we require you to study abroad. For some, this is a wonderful thing. For some, this is terrifying, but that's a good thing because, as you know, business is done globally, and it's a global marketplace, and it's very different from reading about something to visiting something. I went on the Germany trip just a couple years ago, and it was amazing. The students studied a number of German businesses and looked at the cultural and social influences. And then we visited with these companies. We visited with, my favorite was Aldi. How many of you guys know what Aldi is? Okay, what do you know about Aldi?
It's kind of it was very popular like in the Salzburg area, and in Germany it's a German company, and it's like a discount retailer for groceries.
Okay.
And they usually buy like large lots of random quantities from suppliers and manufacturers, and then sell them at a discount price.
Okay, so you're pretty well versed with Aldi. That's pretty good. Now I'll correct one thing though, because the VP met with us, and he said, you know, abroad Aldi is thought of as a discount store. In Germany, it carries some of the most premium brands. But what they do is exactly what you said. They buy in large quantities, and they're able to offer some significant discounts. So we had the opportunity to understand their business practices. The VP told a great story about a failed venture into Greece, where they tried to expand into Greece and things didn't go well. We got to see their supply chain. Oh, thank you. Their supply chain system, which literally existed on an electronic board, and there was a gentleman who stood guard over it, and no one was allowed to touch the different buttons. So it was great to see this firsthand. And so the international trip is one of the experiences that we build in, so that, you know, when you're going on those job interviews, that's a significant thing to talk about. The other thing that I'll highlight is the professional development class. We're so interested in you guys getting a job that we have mandated a professional development class that takes part in the fall and spring semester. It's a 1 credit hour class focused on building your professional skills. So we start from your resume. What does your resume look like? Then we go on to how do you network? Not just, you know, in a business setting, but in a social setting. So if you're at a cocktail reception and there are 3 people over here and 4 people here and 5 people there, how do you break into conversations? What do you say? We help you perfect your elevator pitch, your personal elevator pitch, so that if you run into someone that can give you that dream job, you know exactly what to say and make it memorable. Rita Saylor, who's our Center for Career Development Director, she also came from industry as our dean did, and this is her retirement plan to essentially give back to the students. So she works one-on-one with our graduate students to help place them. So you get a lot of personal attention. One last thing I'll say about the MBA and some of the experiential opportunities. One of the things I'm so excited about this year, I'm sure you guys have heard the news that WVU's joined the Big 12. And so we have joined the Big 12 MBA case competition. So it's not just in athletics that we compete. So our students are going on to Texas Tech to compete against schools from the other Big 12 schools, and we hope to have a good showing. So that's a little bit about the MBA in a nutshell. I'm going to talk a little bit about the admissions criteria towards the end because they kind of run across programs. Let me catch us up on the presentation. Oh, this is a picture of the College of Business and Economics. Have many of you visited WVU's campus? I show of hands. So, okay, so you've seen WVU. We're located right downtown. This is an overview of all our programs. the MBA, the Msn Finance, the Msn Industrial Relations, the Master's in Professional Accountancy, a certificate in Forensic Accounting and Fraud Examination, and Dr. Fleming will talk about this. Some of our new initiatives have fallen right here. We have all these dual degrees. You can get a number of dual degrees within the college by combining different programs, and then also outside of the college. We've emphasized very much in the health sciences. So DDS, PharmD, we're working on something with nursing. JD, that's been one of our longest running dual degree programs. Do we have any sport management students here by chance? One of the most popular joint degrees is our MBA Sport Management degree because there are very few that exist in the country. Oh, and this is one thing we like to tout, and I know the school here is working very hard towards it. We are ACSB accredited, and so I won't bore you with the details, but it's quite an effort to achieve and maintain ACSB accreditation. Okay. So I talked a little bit about the MBA. This is the curriculum. It's, as I said, a general management degree, but you get advanced coursework in all your functional areas. You do have an option to go on, if you don't want to do a dual degree, to do a concentration in finance in addition to the MBA. We focus a great deal on teamwork, and I'm sure you do a lot of that for those business students that are here. And so we have this awesome challenge course up at Cooper's Rock. And so it's a high ropes, low ropes. And so we bring you in June, we get you started in the program, and you get to know each other very well by jumping off of things and your colleagues catching you. So we're trying to build some trust so that you quickly integrate as a team and you move through. And we put in the MBA, we're careful to put you on teams. We look at what backgrounds you're coming from as far as your undergrad degree, and we try to make it a well-rounded team because you're going to learn as much from your classmates as you are from your instructors. So we try to create a cross-functional team. These are our faculty. I can't speak more highly of our faculty. How much they work with our students, they're so vested in their success. In addition to the two wonderful faculty we have with us, Dr. Speaker and Dr. France, they teach in our MBA program in finance and marketing respectively. And our faculty come from top business schools. And they not only do they teach the academics, but they've worked in business, and they're able to bridge the gap between theory and practice. And that's a hard thing to do. And our faculty do that very successfully. Okay, moving on to the Msn Finance. This is one of our more recent master's programs. Do you have any finance undergrads or interested in finance? Okay. The Msn Finance aligns with the CFA, the Certified Financial Analyst certification. Our goal is to get you through CFA Level 1 and possibly Level 2 through the program. There are internship opportunities before graduation. We have a lot of international students, which is it's a wonderfully diverse classroom. And we have a high pass rate, like I said, on CFA Level 1. We also, I'm proud to say, we have 2 certified financial analysts. And for those that are not familiar with what that is, you have to go through 3 levels to be considered a CFA. And so 2 of our faculty have successfully passed that. So they do a great job of mentoring students along. The other thing I should mention, Dr. Chow, who oversees the program, he recently did a presentation to those that might be interested in this program. The starting salaries for Msn Finance can be, upwards in the 6 figures, and and that advances as you go through your career. So there's great earning potential here. And for those that don't have the finance undergrad but are interested in an Msn Finance, you can start in with the MBA degree and go on to the Msn Finance, and that gives you the background for the Msn Finance. Okay, I'm going to pass this to Dr. Fleming so he can talk a little bit about the MPA.
Just out of curiosity, oh, I gotta wear this here. Bear with, I feel more professional already. I have a fairly loud voice, so it carries a little bit, so I really don't need this for talking to you, but I can understand why we're doing this for the recording. How many of you already have jobs lined up in your post-graduation career? Okay. you are the one person then that the faculty here probably are not too worried about. I have to tell you that as a faculty member, and I think I can speak for most faculty members, the #1 priority for us is to teach you the fundamentals of a future profession. And the second thing is we want you to get jobs. We really do. It's not just about only education, but it's education then that will help you through the rest of your life in a career that's rewarding, fulfilling to each of you. Okay. One of the things that was mentioned is that over time things have changed. When my grandfather, actually, he didn't even graduate high school. He was an electrician. He was in World War II. You didn't need a high school degree. In the 50s and 60s, you could get a really good job with a high school education. You really could. Then that changed. In the 70s, you really needed to have that undergraduate degree. In 70s and 80s, really, to a certain extent. Now the bar has been lifted again, and you really should think about a master's program. And I'm not saying this just because we're down here to talk about our master's program, but regardless of what you graduate in or where you want to go, consider getting a master's degree. The Master's in Professional Accountancy, this is in my department up at WVU. It's a 30 credit hour program, 10 classes, fall, spring, and then 2 classes in the summer. The last 2 classes that you take are fraud and forensic related, and then if you stick around for 2 more, then you're eligible. Well, you get our fraud and forensic certificate. So it's tacked on there at the end. The program is geared towards those who are interested in going into the accounting field. The forensics program is geared towards those who are going into the accounting field but who have an interest in eventually doing something forensics or fraud related. Anti-fraud related. I want to make sure I'm clear on that. It's not a how-to course, it's a how not to, it's how to catch those folks. We are the program, not just in West Virginia, not just in the U.S., we're the program in the world when it comes to our fraud and forensics program, bar none. We actually helped set the national curriculum through a National Institute of Justice grant, and we are known to be the leaders in this. Our master's program in accounting, one of the things that we're changing that's going to be new this fall is that we are embedding within the curriculum CPA exam review materials. We want our CPA exam pass rates to be better than average, and we are going to work very hard to make sure that you have that opportunity to be better than average. That's part of the game. We start out in the fall with a Professionalism Week where we have 3 days, and we rotate between the firms that come in. But generally speaking, it's usually a Big Four firm or one of the larger firms within the state, and they come in and they talk at the beginning of the week about what you should be expecting in the workplace, how to prepare for the interview, things to consider after you get the job, passing the CPA exam if you haven't passed it before you start. And then on the Thursday of that week, we have Meet the Firms Night, where we have a significant number of firms. I think this last year, I think we had 16 different firms come in, and the students come in and with their resumes, and they go around and they talk to the folks, and that is the start of the interview season, and that's the second week of school. The following month then, the firms are back on campus to talk to the people that they met during Meet the Firms, and then they even come back in the spring to talk to a couple more folks in regards to some of their upcoming things in the summer. So you go through the fall season, you go through the spring season, and all the while what we're doing is we're building upon your already excellent foundation in accounting. So it's something to consider. When you finish with that, assuming that you had your undergraduate degree, didn't slip one past us, you'll have 150 hours and you should be CPA eligible. If you already have your 150 hours, it's still something to consider because it can add a bit of polish onto the program. Our forensics program that's tacked on there at the end, it's unique. The first 2 classes, which are the last 2 classes of the MPA, they're very hands-on. And so what you do is you work on a a very data-intensive case, hands-on, and at the end, you prepare a report in a team, and you present this report as though you have been working for an attorney, and we have a panel that comes in and they evaluate what your findings are, as though you've been investigating a fraud. The next two classes start out with a search for financial records at the crime scene houses. We have 3 crime scene houses on campus that are used for our forensics program. The ATF comes in. The head of ATF, the white-collar crime director, comes in. He actually swears you in for a 2-hour period, and then you search the house to find the USB jump drives, the tax returns, the bank records, and they are hidden much like you might find in a real crime scene. Behind any crime out there, there's almost always a financial aspect. It could be a drug deal, it could be money laundering, something like that. And how do I know the stuff is well hidden? Because I'm usually recruited to go in there and hide stuff in the house. And I've even taken a screwdriver and screwed off the back of the television set and hid stuff in there. And there's a checklist, and the students have to come out with all their stuff, and if they don't have it, we send them back in because they're executing a subpoena. That is the data set then of what you've collected for these 2 classes then that go on for the next few weeks. And so what you do is you work on this information, and then we bring in the experts. We bring in somebody who's an expert on money laundering, somebody who does Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. We bring a team of people in who are experts at interviewing. Sort of interrogation, sort of interviewing. How do you interview somebody to get them to admit to something? And there's all kinds of interesting little things that you can do when you're talking to somebody to figure out whether or not they're lying or not lying. And I can tell you, this actually relates very well if you become an accountant and just want to be an auditor. When you're in there and you're talking to folks and you're risk assessing and you're walking people through the process, if you start to get a clue that something may not be right, well, then you might increase the audit attention to that particular area. And there's a lot of different things that you can do, and we teach you just enough to become dangerous. Okay. So while looking at me, how many don't look away. How many letters are there in Mississippi? Oh, that was very good. Okay, so he didn't do it. But I wouldn't tell him at the beginning why I was doing this. Okay. And I gotta get one person to fall for this. How many letters are in the word West Virginia?
Oh.
Okay. She just looked up and this way. That is where you look for recall. Okay, so now later on, I'm interviewing her as part of an audit, and I'm talking about something. If I see that she looks up in that way, I know she's just trying to remember. If she looks up in this way, though, that might be fabrication. And research has shown that we look up in one way for recall, we look up in another way if we're trying to invent something. So these are the types of things that we do in our program. We go through and try to show you enough stuff to start to make you dangerous. This program ends. We bring in a very highly regarded and esteemed attorney within the state of West Virginia at the major law firm within the state, and he teaches you what you can and cannot do when you're on the witness stand as an expert witness. And he is very good at telling you, you can't do this, and you shaking your head saying, I won't do this, and then he can look at you and get you to basically break what you just said. But the thing is, you're practicing in the classroom instead of in the courtroom, because some of you might be hired as consultants or expert witnesses. So after we go through all this training, how do we wrap this up? Well, the same law firm sends anywhere from 12 to 15 attorneys up to our campus who are very well versed in these cases, and then they depose you in an adversarial way. So they know what the case says, and they're trying, and you know the case because you've been working on it, you've done your report, and now they're trying to get you to say something that would be used against you. Okay? And it's actually a very fun thing. It's a little stressful, but the students always love it after they're done, like, oh, you know, I did pretty well, or I could have done a little bit better here, that type of thing. But again, it's practice. And then the route that most people take, we've had great placement in our forensics at Price Waterhouse and with Ernst & Young. But the route that most of the students take that have done this is they go into auditing and they spend a couple years to get the auditing experience, and then they move into the forensics track. We don't have great placement in the FBI because the minimum age requirement in the FBI is 25, but we've got good placement in the ATF and the IRS. Okay, so that's our forensics program. And it's closely tied to our master's program, and we are doing a few changes there. One, we want to increase the MPA, and then on the forensics, by the way, we include the materials that are required to pass the CFE, the Certified Fraud Examiner exam, and you go through all that material and you can sit for the CFE at the end and pass that. And actually, as it stands currently, we are subsidizing the cost of you taking that exam. So you should be able to pass the exam at the end and without any additional fees for that. Our PhD program is relatively new. This is something that many of us within the organization have been working on for a lot of years, and we got a dean who also wanted to have a doctoral program. I don't know if many of you have thought about academia as a career path, but when you stop and think about supply and demand for just a second, in the U.S. there are only 89 institutions that have PhDs in accounting. Just 89, and they generally graduate only 120 people per year in total. There's about 600 accounting faculty per year retiring in the U.S. So there's a lot of job security, and the pay really isn't too bad because you're doing something you want to do, and you got supply and demand working in your favor. So we started a PhD program. We only accept individuals if we have somebody that we can actually match them up to their interest. We're very restrictive on what the Gmat scores are, and our program will max out with 12 in total. 4 years, full-time residency. We want you to choose an area, and then we ask that you research fraud forensics or ethics in that sub-area. So if you're interested in auditing, then it might be fraud as it relates to auditing. If you're doing governmental, it might be ethics as it relates to governmental. If you're doing managerial, then again, fraud forensics or ethics. And we're throwing a lot of resources at trying to make this very successful, and I think that we are going to succeed in that regard. We've got one person currently in the program who is from within the state, and we're accepting 2 people this next year, and the one person that we've already accepted out of the 2 did his undergrad at Fairmont State. So it's not, we are actually out here looking. Now, why are we out here looking? Because in our master's program, as we reflect back and we start to look at why we're successful, we reflect back upon the students that we've had, and some of the most notable students that we had were not WVU undergraduate students. They weren't. They came from the various schools, yours included. So what we wanted to do today was talk a little bit about what classes you might expect to see, and what the threshold here is. And we met earlier today to look to see what your undergraduate degree in accounting how that would be viewed in our program. And it looks like every prerequisite would actually be covered. And then I know that the Gmat score sometimes has been a bit of a hurdle for folks, but I will toss this out. I'm reviewing some of the aspects of the Gmat. But if you take the Gmat and you get a 700 or higher, we will give you a full waiver, tuition, fees. If you get a 650 to 690, we will give you a 50% tuition fee waiver. So I just want to make sure that the various schools in West Virginia are aware of this, and the students are aware of this, because we are a land-grant institution, and it is our job, although we haven't always done it, it is our job to reach out to the various people to let them know what's going on. And I myself am a native West Virginian. I grew up in a very small town. Is there anybody from Ravenswood, West Virginia in here? I played basketball for Mick Price. Did you, oh, at Fairmont, that's right, yeah. Mick played basketball for Joe Retton at Fairmont. Yep, yeah. Yes, I played basketball for Mick, and I really did enjoy growing up in Ravenswood. And even today, I don't live in Morgantown, I live in Elkins, which isn't much bigger. But it's one of those things where, you need to be thinking longer term about what skill sets you might need. And just know that there are institutions out there that can help you provide those skill sets. And know that you have faculty here who are interested enough in your development that are willing to bring other folks in like us to talk to you a little bit about this. Any questions on the MPA, or the forensics program, or our PhD?
The Gmat requirement, the 700, is that for the MPA or the PhD? Or both?
For the master's program, the 700. Let me explain a little bit about how the PhD program works. That tuition waiver and everything that I was just talking about, that's for the master's program. If we accept you into the doctoral program, we pay you. That's how that works. Stipend $15,000 per year, and if you teach in the summer, then I give you $5,000 per class. But that's only for the accounting program. We pay a little differently than everybody else. Okay. Is that helpful? Very good. Okay. Any other questions? Did you play basketball with Mick and Mannington, or did you play basketball with Mick and Mannington?
Oh, we were opponents. No, not at Mannington. I played at Monongah.
Oh, Monongah. Okay. 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 Very good. I actually when I went to I did my undergrad at WVU, and it was funny. You go to class and like, wait a second, I played against you, and then you actually kind of reacquaint yourself with some friends. I'll say a couple more things about the MBA. Hope you don't mind.
No, please do.
My master's is actually an MBA, and I came from industry. I worked 10 years in industry before I decided to go get my PhD and get into academia. I did my MBA, basically is the equivalent of what the executive program is now, and that was basically it consumed my life for 2.5 years. You would work 12, 14, 16 hours a day, and then you had your MBA, and that's the executive MBA. If you can do it right after your undergraduate program, it is a lot easier. It really is. And as far as the trips abroad, I've been to the Germany trips in Fulda, Germany, and it's just a fascinating place. Every year, the businesses that we talk to change a little bit, and the way it's constructed is we go over generally for a week, and we meet with a business or an aspect of their economy in the morning for like 4 or 5 hours, and then the afternoon you've got more of an educational tourism kind of sort of thing where you actually go to a site and then like see the plant that they've been talking about, or you might go and visit a particular mine or something like that. I've actually been to Fulda, Germany several different times. So I've been down to Munich, to the BMW place, and to the salt mine where the gold was hidden that Eisenhower found. And I've seen a lot of cool stuff. And the educational aspect of the trip has just been tremendous. The trip to China I have not done, but I understand it is just as impressive and can be quite a learning experience for folks. Okay. No more questions? Okay.
I'll talk just more about the application criteria. And Dr. Fleming stole my thunder. I love to talk about the scholarship opportunities. No, I'm okay. I'm just going to give you kind of a general overview. The programs differ slightly with the admissions criteria. Actually, I'm remiss. I didn't talk about the MSIR program. Let me give you a brief overview. Our master's in industrial relations is essentially a human resource master's. This is one of the oldest and most distinguished programs in the U.S. It recently went from a 1-year program to a 2-year program with an internship opportunity in between year 1 and year 2. And the reason they did that, they have such an active alumni advisory board. They said, hey, your students are great, but they're lacking just a little bit of polish. So if you really want them to be industry ready and really competitive, then this is what you need to do. So that's what they did. They also align their curriculum with SHRM, which is the Society for Human Resource Management. That's the professional society associated with the HR program, or with the HR industry. This program it's one of the top in the country. When we benchmarked ourselves against the Ivy Leagues, like we're up there with Cornell. And some major employers come to campus, and we are their preferred schools to recruit from, such as PepsiCo. We had their supply chain VP in just recently to do a talk. Marathon Oil, GE. We have some local companies such, well, Milan's local, but it's really international. There's an incredible placement rate. And some of these students, depending on where you want to work, if you're willing to leave West Virginia, which, you know, we don't always want that because we want to retain our best and brightest, but some of our students in the, with the Msir program are starting, you know, a recent offer was around 90 plus a signing bonus. So there's some great earning potential here. So the MSIR is another program, but you can also combine that with the other if you want to do an MBA MSIR, you can do 2 degrees in 2 years. Okay, so this is just a quick overview of some of the experiential activity that goes with the MSIR program. We have an GE interview competition, so you are essentially interviewing undergrads, so you get to practice that skill because that's an important, it's behavioral based interviewing. This is a skill that you know, is used in industry, and so you're well practiced coming out. We have a collective bargaining simulation where we have management and union, and you have to come to an agreement, and you're locked in a room for 24 hours until there's some sense of moving forward, and this gets very contentious. And the gentleman that runs this is our executive in residence, Hutch, and he just does a great job of really replicating simulating kind of this labor union negotiations. There's a practicum where we bring great speakers to campus. I mentioned the alumni board. That alumni board takes such a role in mentoring our students. Like I said, we have such dedicated faculty and dedicated alums, and then we have a student organization. These are some of the companies that our students are placed with. Okay, so just quickly, with the, kind of give you an overview of the application criteria. You have to have an undergraduate degree. How many, do I have any seniors in here? Okay, are you guys thinking about grad school possibly? Okay, well, let me continue with this. So you have to have graduated with your undergraduate degree. We need a copy of your resume. The Gmat test is required for all programs except the MSIR program. They will also consider the GRE or the Gmat. And the MPA is looking at the role of the Gmat in the admissions criteria. If you have a GRE score and not a Gmat, you can contact us about that. The Gmat, let me just reiterate, we've put a lot of resources behind scholarship opportunities, and that's anchored with Gmat scores. So if you guys don't know about the Gmat, the highest score you can get is an 800, the lowest score you can get is a 200. 550 is about the 50th percentile. For students that score 650 to 690, that's a half scholarship, so that's half your tuition and fees. If you score 700 and above, that's essentially your full tuition and fees. So it would behoove you to spend some time in preparing for the test and possibly even retaking it. Other materials include up to 3 letters of recommendation and/or a personal statement. We're in the admissions cycle right now, but for those seniors that are strongly considering graduate school, for most of our programs, we'll consider you up till the beginning of May. So there's still an opportunity to apply if you haven't already applied. Did I miss anything as far as from the accounting perspective about the admissions criteria?
We would still look at theirs even past.
Yes, because they are a fall start. So if you're considering the MPA program, I would encourage you to get your application in, but there's a little bit more time. Scholarship opportunities. Okay. So what kind of questions do you guys have about graduate school in general, about WVU programs? Let me reiterate just one thing. We're here talking about WVU programs. They're great programs, but we strongly encourage you to consider graduate school, if not now, later in your professional career. The one benefit of doing it now, there is the opportunity cost of not working right away, but it could change the trajectory of your career. More doors will be open earlier, and you may move up into management and leadership positions quicker because you have this additional credential. So do keep that in mind. Okay, what kind of questions do you have? Well, I appreciate everyone's attendance on a Friday afternoon. Again, I'm sure it's not for the extra credit, but for those that are interested in the MBA or the MPA or any of our graduate program offerings, you have a question about graduate school, come down and visit with us. I did hand out a sheet. If you don't mind signing your name and the programs that you might be interested in, it's a Dr. Niedermeyer has it up there if you haven't filled that out. And then we have some materials down here if you'd like additional information for those that came in a little bit later. Thank you.
And if you feel more comfortable just popping down here and chatting with us for just a couple minutes one-on-one, you're more than welcome to do that too.
And we have their contact information if you can stay today and you need to next week, we can give you their emails and so forth.